Thank you, ladies. It was beautiful. Story. I am story. We Unitarian Universalists honor and hold up stories all the time, be them biblical or secular. Stories are often considered our sacred scriptures. Well, I have a story I want to share with you. A true story, that is for certain. A story that happened about 7 months ago. I had a stroke. It was considered a mild stroke, but a stroke nonetheless. I was up in Maine. I went to Maine, staying at the house our parents left us in the village of Cape Porpoise outside of Kennebunkport. I wanted to get off the Cape after months of going nowhere due to COVID, and before the beginning of summer season and the start of my new summer job on that Friday. I drove the 4.5 hours north with absolutely no problems. Once I arrived, in my attempts to get the key for the house, which we had hidden under the deck, I fell down. In my attempts to get up, I struggled a bit, but managed to get myself up and into the house. I noted how it was becoming rather awkward and difficult for me to walk. I was thinking then it was a reaction to some medications I had just started taking due to my new diagnosis of diabetes. I managed to get up all right and then decided I didn't want to go walking down the road to the end by the beach. And after spending a restless night, I woke up and was not feeling that great. So, I decided to drive home. Thank you. I loaded up my car once again and began the 4.5 drive back to Provincetown. Going through the center of Boston, going down Route 1, going down 93, Route 3, bumper-to-bumper traffic. By some miracle, I made it without any incident until I attempted to turn into the road that leads to my condo parking lot, when I overshot the roadway. In my attempts to straighten out the car, instead of hitting the brakes, I hit the gas and drove right into a large bush and some shrubs. To correct my mistake, I again hit the gas instead of the brake and went further into the bushes. I believe this is when the stroke actually occurred. I could not feel my right foot or my right leg at all. I parked my damaged car, and trying to get out of the car, I fell 2 more times. Once I got myself upright and my bags in hand, I proceeded to my front door, attempting to unlock the door, and I fell 2 more times. I damaged my glasses and severely cutting my leg. I could not get back up. I called a friend for help. When she arrived, she had a medical background and she confirmed my deepest fears. "Bill," she said, "I think you're having a stroke." By then, my speech was slurred and the right side of my face was drooping. The ambulance was called and I was off to Cape Cod Hospital. The MRI confirmed a stroke in the place, it's called the pons of the brain. Does anybody know where that is? It's kind of in the back of the brain. I spent the emergency room, which were very uncomfortable beds, I'm just editorializing it, until a bed was found. After 5 nights at Cape Cod Hospital and after much negotiation, I was transferred to Spalding Rehab Hospital in Sandwich for a 2-week stay. Now the rehabilitation process began. Physical, occupational, and speech therapy began in earnest. Daily, the hour to 45-minute therapy sessions retrained the damaged part of my brain to write my name legibly, to speak articulating mindfully, and to learn the fine art of walking. I was discharged on May 22nd under the Visiting Nurses Hospice and attending the site rehab of Spalding in Orleans. Rehabilitation is ongoing. This is my truth, my story, and I'm sticking to it. Not one of my most proudest moments, that's for sure. Yet I came face to face with my greatest of fears, having a stroke. My mother had a stroke and was in a wheelchair for the last 8 years of her life. As she described it, I lay down to take a nap, and only half of me woke up. Her father, my grandfather, was in a wheelchair for 25 years following a massive stroke. My mother's 2 brothers both had strokes. Genetics and heredity was not in my favor. I found the most challenging aspect of my rehabilitation was developing a secure sense of balance once again. I was totally and completely off balance. My rehabilitation began in a wheelchair. There was also an alarm on my bed, so if I tried to get out by myself, it went off very loudly. Even sudden moves, me rolling over, would set it off. It reminded me when I was in the hospital for my heart surgery. I was hooked up to all kinds of monitors right at the nurse's station. When I finally started to relax and accept the final diagnosis for open heart surgery, I began to relax and to meditate some in my hospital bed. Once I began, a nurse came rushing in. Mr. Clarke, are you all right? Oh, yes, I'm fine. I was just relaxing and meditating. Oh, no. Please don't meditate on a cardiac care ward. It makes us very nervous. So much for that. But the underlying concern was care for the patient, be it from heart surgery or a stroke. I received physical, occupational, and speech therapy. My speech was a bit slurred, and the right side of my face was drooping. We practiced intentional speaking and over-articulating my words. Things improved rather quickly. My least favorite activities in speech therapy were some mind games being done on a computer testing my cognitive skills, with activities like alphabetizing words and math problems and map reading. I told my therapist I don't do math in public. I don't, especially word problems. I could not do word problems in math before the stroke. It was not in my repertoire of skills I possessed pre-stroke. We had a good laugh over that. In occupational therapy, it was hand coordination using my right hand and my fingers. We practiced separating my daily meds into containers, plus being a former sign language interpreter, seeing if my hands would do what I wanted them to do, especially with finger spelling. It was all good practice for me. I would finger spell in my bed all the time. Initially, some of my fingers would not cooperate with me, especially the ring finger on my right hand. It just wouldn't stand up. But now it's doing pretty good, right? It's standing up pretty well. So the progress improved over time. Still, it was physical therapy which remained the most challenging. Being able to stand by myself, put socks on, nearly impossible. To bend down and pick up obstacles off the floor remained nearly impossible. The ultimate challenge was finding a sense of balance. I was entirely off balance. I eventually graduated from a wheelchair to a walker. I was released from the hospital with a walker, and I had friends who lent me 2 more, so I had 3 walkers in place, as I had 2 sets of stairs to walk up and to walk down. Each walker was placed by the set of stairs. I was released under the busy nurse's care, receiving both physical and speech therapies. I practiced walking with a walker outside on uneven ground, eventually moving on to the streets with a nurse by my side. Yet the kind of balance I was struggling with was a practical kind of balance. Simply walking, simple standing. I was, while turning one's head to the right and turning one's head to the left, turning one's head up and turning one's head down, continually moving my arms as you walked. I never realized how much work it is involved in the simple art of walking. How much of your brain is still filtering in through all the outside stimuli coming through your senses. I experienced this firsthand as I tried to walk with a walker and a nurse by my side. I tried to walk out my simple roadway onto what's called Provincetown Road, the road that goes to the beach. It was too overwhelming for me. It was way too much stimuli coming through my senses. Bicycles, people, cars, pedicabs, scooters, dogs. It was too much for my damaged brain to take it all in. After much practice, I eventually accomplished this simple task on my own. I could walk down the street with my walker. My next goal was to walk, and by now I had moved only to a cane, to the breakwater at high tide down by the Provincetown Inn to try to swim once again. Swimming was my main form of exercise, and I was unclear whether I could actually swim again. I realized this simple task involved many stages. I took them one by one. First, I had to get myself there on my own, which I did, and I walked back. Next, I had to navigate walking on bits of sand with only a cane. I did, and walked back. Then standing on my own, stripping down to my swimsuits, which I did, and I walked back. And then finally walking into the water without a cane, and then finally swimming, which I did. I could swim. My right arm and right leg were a bit weak, but by God, I could swim again. My goals were adjusted to fit my progress. Rather than to the water, I walked on further up Commercial Street to the Red Inn. Next, I went up to the hill by Land's End Inn. Next, further down the hill to Outwood Lane, one of my few favorite dirt roads in Provincetown. Next, back up to Bradford Street and back down to my condo unit. It was like a circle I would do. One day, I actually made it all the way to the post office. My God, I was thrilled. But I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. Following swimming, I wanted to see if I could still dance. Now, mind you, I always considered myself a pretty good dancer. No, that's not true. I was a damn good dancer. But my right leg, it seemed to have lost its rhythm. Doing a basic Lindy or jitterbug or West Coast swing, I was unable to turn and swing without losing my balance. So I had a dear friend come over, the same who called the ambulance, and we practiced and practiced together until I could actually do it. The turns were, initially sloppy and wobbly, but later it became as smooth as it always was. Yes, I could swim. Yes, I could dance again. Life was considered returning to somewhat normalcy. Health expert and guru Jane Kingsford once wrote, "Balance is not something you find, it is something you create." Balance is not something you find, it is something you create. As a health notable, creating balance seems a great goal. And this was totally what I was trying to accomplish, to create a balance. It didn't come naturally to me anymore, just the opposite. I was continually off balance. Creating balance then becomes intentional and deliberate, training the connections to your brain which are damaged due to the stroke. Much of this creating balance takes time and patience. If there is one thing this stroke has taught me, it is patience and an overall sense of gratitude. Gratitude for family and gratitude for friends. I could not have gotten through this ordeal without my community of friends, or, I might add, my Unitarian Universalist Church in Provincetown. They would drive me to appointments because I could not drive. They would food shop for me, and most importantly, keep me laughing and not taking myself and my new disability too seriously. Author William Ward said, "A well-developed sense of humor is the pole that adds balance to your step as you walk the tightrope of life." Never was a truth expressed with more accurate wisdom. In hindsight, there was much to be grateful for. I made it all the way back from Maine without incident or accident until I was home. Surely, I was not alone in that long drive home. Something or someone was looking out for me. At first, I was so angry at myself that I made it all the way home and then had an accident. I don't understand it, but now extremely grateful I did safely. I recall once in the hospital, the doctors would read my chart that I drove 4.5 hours home. Why? They would ask me. A legitimate question, I guess. Well, I want to be home, where my community is and the doctors who know me are. His reply, I don't know you from Adam. Cheeky son of a gun, I thought. Yet he certainly had a valid point. My recovery continues, and I learn the task of keeping my balance and filtering out added stimuli as I proceed forward. I did perform a wedding in September. It was a small wedding for a local summer couple. I managed okay, but found standing on my own, reading from my prepared script, engaging the couple, speaking to the guests, a bit challenging. I remember grasping for the wall as I was losing my balance. Yet I did it. A slow re-entry into the profession I love so much. And truth be told, that I can stand on my own here and preach to all of you once again. As a friend said to me, Bill, you seem to have at least 9 lives. You survived open-heart surgery, you survived diabetes, and now you survived a stroke. It's just doesn't seem to be your time yet. And thank goodness. For I'm not ready to give all of this up. I recalled my ministerial mentor, the Reverend Peter Fleck, used to say, this is the day that has been given to us. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. All I have to say is I am rejoicing, my friends. I am totally and thoroughly rejoicing. Amen. And blessed be. Let's take a few moments of silent meditation and prayer.
Closing hymn.
Oh, we have a hymn?
Yes, we do. Closing hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
It's my favorite.
That's why I chose it. Please rise if you're able. So, just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I made each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to true. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did west, tell them I said yes to love. Now we're going to extinguish our chalice.
We extinguish the bark of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
My friends, may you go out with joy and be led forth with peace